Greetings and blessings. Welcome to the Word Explained. I am Brother IC. Today we're going to discuss the last part, verse 6 of Psalms 1. We had previously discussed the other verses 1 through to 5, and we have discoursed on them, and I trust that whatever was outlined there in the videos has helped to enlighten all who have listened to it, and has helped to give them a better understanding of the Bible so far. Let us go, without further delay, into discussing verse 6, which states, "For the Lord knoweth the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish." This is so upfront. This is so direct. Someone can easily say, alright, yes, God knoweth the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish. What else is there to know? What this is showing us, and before I go any further, my brothers and my sisters in Christ, and those who are seeking Christ, you need to remember, I am not the one who said this. It is written that in the Bible, every single verse from Genesis to Revelation and in between is a parable within a parable. In the New Testament, in Matthew, Jesus, when he spoke to the crowd, the masses, he spake to them in parables. And he's speaking them to parables to the point where his disciples had to ask him, what did he mean by what he said while speaking to the masses? And he said to them, he has to speak to them in parables so that the words can be fulfilled, where it is stated that by seeing they shall not see, and by hearing they shall not hear. And that is the reason why one of the reasons why he had to speak in parables. The Bible has been used by many religions worldwide to justify their cause, whether rightfully or wrongfully. So the point I'm trying to make is that it is so easy for those who do not seek deeply and earnestly and sincerely to misunderstand the words that are written in the Bible. But we'll cover these topics as we go along in due course. Let us now return to this part of verse 6 and expound on it as best as we can with the help of God through his Holy Son Jesus the Christ. For God knoweth the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish. What this is saying to me is that for God knoweth the way of the righteous. Now let us consider for a moment, my friends, what is there in the heavens or the earth or the depths of the sea or the depths of the universe or the heights of the universe that can be hidden from God? You see, many people acknowledge and accept the fact that God is the creator of all, but many have not even stopped to really absorb that sentence and the profundity of that statement in their consciousness, my brothers and sisters in Christ. And that is why the psalmist said, "He that maketh the ear shall he not hear, and he that formeth the eye shall he not see." If that statement was taken seriously by every single member of humanity, crime alone would be literally non-existent. Crime in whatever form, murders, robberies, rapes, shootings, lootings, you name it, they would never take place. Because those who commit these acts, these heinous acts against humanity, always operate 9 times out of 10 on the premise that they will not be caught because no one saw when they committed that dastardly act against a fellow human. For the Lord knoweth the way of the righteous. Know He that has created every single thing that we are conscious of, and every single thing that we are not yet conscious of. Isn't it expected that He and He alone will know the way of the ungodly? By looking from His holy throne above, He looks down upon us. And He knows who is good, and He knows who is not so good. He knows who is going to uplift next, and He knows who is going to be cast down next. There's nothing, my friends, nothing that can be hidden from God. Otherwise, He would never able to be called God. But why He is God is because He's all-seeing. He is all-knowing. He is omnipresent, and He is omnipotent. He's everywhere, and everywhere belongs to God. Let us never forget that. So it is natural and it is expected that God and God alone knoweth the way of the righteous. How much more so the way of the ungodly? Do you get the point, my beloved brothers and sisters in Christ? If God, in His infinite wisdom and knowledge, knoweth the way of the righteous, shall He not also know the way of the ungodly? And it says here, the final sentence of verse 6 of Psalms 1, but the way of the ungodly shall perish. Why shall the ungodly perish? If we look at literally any verse in the Bible, basically the theme and the message is underlying, it is the same. Love God, respect God, serve God to the best of your ability through His holy Son Jesus the Christ. Keep His commandments, respect His laws, His ordinances, His precepts, His statutes, His decrees, His divine decrees, and it shall be well with thee all the days of thy life. So, in the Bible, it shows us examples of those who have served God in spirit and in truth to the best of their abilities. And the end result of all of those efforts of serving God in spirit and in truth to the best of their abilities regarding these respective individuals is that they found favor, they found grace in the eyes of God. And as a result of that, He overthrew their enemies. He made them steadfast. He made them to stand upon Christ, His solid rock. He was with them in times of trouble, and He was with them to lead them to the promised land. And when nations and kings rose against them and outnumbered them by the sheer numbers of their armies and their weaponry, God showed them that as mighty as those armies were, they were as a piece of thread in his hands, which he easily snapped. And that is why there's a part in the Bible that says, no weapon that is formed against thee shall ever prosper once you are with God. There is a part in the Bible also that states, weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. And it further states, and in my prosperity I said, I shall never be moved. I believe it is Psalms 30. Let me check. Yes, it is Psalms 30, verse 5 to 6. For his anger endureth but a moment, in his favor is life. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. And in my prosperity I said, I shall never be moved. Let me just put 7 here. Lord, by thy favor thou hast made my mountain to stand strong. Thou didst hide thy face, and I was troubled. So coming back to Psalms 1. This is the end result of the ungodly. They will be troubled. They will know destruction, and they will know death, and they will know sorrow, they will know pain, and they will know anguish. It is not that the righteous does not suffer pain and sorrow and anguish also, but by trusting in God, who is with them in times of trouble, according to the psalmist, they will soon get relief, release, and comfort from God due to his intervention in their lives. So for even the righteous who has to suffer afflictions, torment, and sorrows, there is comfort, there is refreshment, there is rejuvenation, there is peace in the God that they serve at the end of their battle and at the end of their race. But the man, when I say man, that is basically any person, male or female, who turns away from God by not seeking his face, by not seeking his counsel, by not seeking his intervention in every aspect of their lives, by denying his existence, by cursing him, they make of their own efforts a vast chasm between them and their God, the Most High. It's like a rebellious child who doesn't want to hear what his parents say. His parents love him. They are doing their best to give him a proper schooling, proper education, teach him the principles and virtues that he must carry with him through life to be a decent, respectable citizen of the land. But he does not want those. He disregards that because he's bent on being rebellious. He's bent on having his own way. He separates himself from the love of his parents, who still love him, but they can't control him. And regretfully, they allow him to go about his business, because sometimes, there's something that you have to introduce called tough love. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that phrase, tough love. God gives us love. He loves us all. And whether or not you want to believe it, even the devil is getting a chance from God. But that's another thing to be discussed another time. It doesn't take anything for God to wipe out all evil on this earth right now and set up his kingdom according to his will. But God is mysterious and God is wonderful, and there's a reason why things are taking place now. So, when this rebellious child leaves from home, determined to set his own course and do as he pleases, he leaves without even getting a blessing from his parents because he's not living right. He leaves and resorts to destructive things. He rebels against everything good that he was taught in the household of his parents. Now there's a saying, my brothers and my sisters in Christ, that you always will reap what you sow. Is there anyone out there who can plant an apple tree and when it bears, they get tomatoes? Impossible. So the person who removes himself from God by his ungodly behavior is bound to perish because he's straying from his father's house. He's straying from the righteousness that his father established for all mankind to obey and yield to. He is straying from the truth that belongs to God and God alone. He is straying from every precept and commandment that God has commanded him to do. He is straying from every single thing that glorifies God. Isn't that somebody who is definitely bound for destruction? The person who turns their back on God, how can they live? How can they live after they have turned their back on the one who has given them life? The one who is the hair on their head and the sole of their feet and everything in between. The one who is their soul, their heart, their liver, their kidney, their brain, their spine, their ribs. You name it. There is not one thing on your body that was not created by God. The spirit that is within us, talking and animating this physical form until the time comes for the spirit to depart, is from God also. So how can one have all of this from God? Spirit, the soul, the body, everything, the arms, the legs, the head, the eyes, everything. And then you turn around in the denial of thy Father and walk away from that. He who has created you and made it all possible for you to have a head, some hands, some feet, a reproductive organ, livers, kidneys, all kinds of organs. You're bound. That person is bound to perish because God is life. He's the creator of all life. So, when this passage here, the final sentence says, "For the Lord knoweth the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish." It is there as plain as day for us to see, my beloved brothers and sisters in Christ, that once you turn your back on God, you are bound to perish because you're turning your back away from life. I'm going to give you all a little joke here, something to look into. Has anyone ever stopped to consider that when one lives, L-I-V-E-S, or you live, have you ever spelled that back way yet and see what you get? L-I-V-E, live. E-V-I-L is what? Evil. Think about that. Many of us have never even thought of that. Live by facing God. You turn to evil, which is live, spelled backwards, when you turn away from God. But we'll cover that in another discussion. My brothers and my sisters in Christ, and those who are seeking Christ to know more about Him, I thank you for taking time to listen to this. This is Brother IC coming to you from the Word Explained. Have yourselves a blessed day. God bless you all.